Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to our flagship Sunday evening broadcast of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course.
Hello.
So, great to see you all here tonight. Got a lovely crowd in here to start the show. 709 strong in the Rumble chat, 675 strong on YouTube for a total of 1385 in the crowd. Great to see you all here. Russell sporting some new shirt, a new shirt, a new T-shirt.
I got
say swag, but it's not swag. It's not ours. It would be swag if it were ours. It's new apparel.
Ours.
Yes.
I got to get Kurt's address in Austin and send him a copy of this one.
Yeah, he would love that shirt. Secret government. I survived secret government mind control, and all I got was this stupid T-shirt. That's right. We debuted some new countdown music tonight, some Afro funk. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Couple of haters in the chat, but for the most part, I think it was positive.
I got to say, man, the little clip that you played before we went live sounded like dentist office music, but then I was listening to it in the kitchen while I was doing the dishes. It was actually good. You played the worst part.
At the top, you know what it is.
It's actually like the soundtrack of Dolomite.
Yeah, it's like it's Afro funk. It's like I mean, it's
Shaq.
not as good. I mean, I hate to say this, it's not as good as like the Fela Kuti stuff, but we couldn't get Fela Kuti because that's copywritten. So it's like a knockoff of that. But as knockoffs go, I thought it was pretty good. And yeah, the way you do it is because I like to have the zero line up with the end of the last song. You kind of start in reverse order, and then for the first minute and a half, I just had to, put in some sort of slow filler. So that's how I put that together. But yes, every piece of this show carefully curated for your enjoyment.
Man.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah. People dug it. Some of you guys,
brown.
That's right. And like I said, we had some haters. Some of you guys still have to get more in touch with your white privilege. Some of you guys really have to reckon with your whiteness a little more.
That's it.
So you don't lash out at the music. Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem.
But most people seem to enjoy it pretty good.
You go anywhere outside the soundtrack of "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," and they go nuts.
Yeah, was it bluegrass? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anything other than a banjo and violin
on the big rock candy mountain.
That's yeah, right. Folks, we got a big show for you tonight. Lots to talk about. Lots of stuff going on. We will be switching to Rumble before the Q&A tonight. Actually, final few segments of the show are on Rumble, so be ready to make that switch, YouTubers. And probably, my guess is we'll go a little under 2 hours on YouTube and then do the final hour over on Rumble. But that link to go over there is dodissidents.com/Rumble. And we will give you the heads up.
A lot of speech stories this week, not all of which we should do in East Berlin. Robbie Burns was asking about the mug. I mentioned it last week. This is from Chicago because they actually have American Gothic at the Art Institute.
Yeah, that is a pretty cool mug. That is a boss mug. So yes, no, we have a lot of speech stories this week, some of which we want to do on a free speech platform, oddly enough. So we will be doing that towards the end of the show. But we got plenty to get to. So, the new unofficial motto of the show, which really took, was yesterday's news tomorrow. And that kind of applies to this first segment because we are a little bit late on this, quite late on this, because our last show was Thursday afternoon. And, of course, the Kamala Harris-Tim Walz interview was Thursday evening. And by we, I mean mostly Russ. Although I got to say, I mean, that DNC week was hectic for me in its own right. But Russ, it was very, very tiring. So we were just not going to be able to, do a special stream or anything like that. I mean, Russ had been going for almost 2 weeks straight with no break whatsoever. So we were not going to be able to add anything.
Fried.
Yes. Russ was pretty fried.
I still had that abomination they call a pizza sitting at the bottom of my bowels. I couldn't get it out of there.
Russ had an impacted stool, an impacted Illuminati's pizza in his colon that he had to pass, and so
I had to pass that. It was worse than my gallstones.
Yeah. You go to the urgent care. Seems like you have some Italian beef in there that you're having a little bit of a hard time.
Wouldn't be the first time in this town.
Yeah, right. No, I bet not. I bet not.
I bet they've had to pull out a lot of Italian beef from their colon.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, exactly. All right, folks. So we are going to get into the Kamala Harris-Tim Walz interview. It was about what most people expected. It was about what I expected. We have a few pieces that we're going to play in a few different clips, but this first one just really kind of represents the trajectory of the Democratic Party over the past 7 or 8 years. Here's Kamala Harris asked if she still supports a fracking ban.
Is a big one. When you were in Congress, energy is a big one. When you were in Congress, you supported the Green New Deal. And in 2019, you said, quote, "There is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue, particularly in your must-win state of Pennsylvania. Sure. Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
In 2019, I believe, at a town hall, you said you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yes. So it changed in that campaign?
In 2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward. I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
So in 2019, I said I would like to ban it, but maybe we can't. It sounds like she was kind of hedging in 2019. But we're going to keep going. Sorry, there's a different clip here. Go ahead.
This is bringing it back to me. If you remember, she went into those primaries trying to run as a younger, more ethnically acceptable Bernie Sanders.
Well, less socialist too. She didn't call herself a socialist, but yeah, she ran on Medicare for all.
She tried to basically grab the Bernie people by running on similar policies with a more acceptable identity profile. And then as the race went on, she gave up on that and started going to the right on her positions and decided to start vying for the centrists instead. And that's when she changed that. Yeah. Like she did change. And if I remember correctly, she wound up basically fudging on Medicare for all as well.
Oh, of course. They all did. There were a few who supported Medicare for all at the beginning of that primary.
Most of them didn't, though. Like I remember she went in full. My staff didn't even know. I remember that. She did that whole press conference. But then, she started tacking right as the campaign went on, which is, look, I mean, that's part of the money people forced Biden to take her as VP, partly because of that. Like if she had stuck to that, they probably wouldn't have been so hot on her.
Right. No. Yes. Yeah. No, she started that campaign. I remember supporting Medicare for all. She performed very well in that first debate, the first primary debate, where she advocated for Medicare for all. But then, everybody except Bernie, who started that campaign advocating Medicare for all, and there weren't many. She did, Warren did, Tulsi did. They all ended up backtracking on it, except for him. By the time they dropped out. But here's the rest of this fracking bit. Dana Bash presses her a little bit more.
What made you change that position at the time?
Well, let's be clear. My values have not.
Let's be clear. I don't quite understand what fracking is. I never really did. Most people in our party don't really know what it is either. 4 or 5 years ago, a bunch of young climate activists told us it was very bad. And so in keeping with our policy to be against bad things and for good things, we were against fracking. Now it seems a few years later, maybe it's not as bad as we thought it was. But even if it is as bad as we thought it was, turns out the world has gone so far to hell that there are a lot worse things than fracking now. So we can't really afford to have this argument anymore because the people in Pennsylvania want fracking. And so I have to be pro-fracking. And anybody who doesn't like that could just eat my pussy. That's what they say. That's what she should say. That's the thing. Women don't get to say that line. Like a man can say blow me. But she should just say, if you don't like this, eat me.
Generally not when you're on the national stage doing an interview with Dana Bash, whether
she should
male
say it
or
on the
female.
debate stage to Trump. That would that'd be a huge moment.
Look, I
put
think
one foot up on the podium and say, "Why don't you come over here and eat my pussy?" That would be something.
I think she's got a great identity angle here. She could just say, "Look, there's been a lot of discussion about the biases on SATs. My understanding of fracking was a sex act I used to do with Willie that involved large pieces of furniture. And I definitely want to ban that.
Fracking.
I don't want to get into the details here of what fracking is in my community, but it's not what I thought they were talking about. It had nothing to do with oil.
I don't think most people really understand what fracking is or why it's so horrible. I think this was something where they kind of let the sort of sunrise movement people lead them around. And now this is just a fight they can't afford to wage because, hey, they got to win Pennsylvania. Like the people of Pennsylvania are the boss. That's it. What they say goes now because that's the swing state you have to win. That's where they got to go. So let's hear her say, my values haven't changed. Of course, my values.
At the time.
Well, let's be clear. My values have not changed.
Oh.
I believe it is very important that we take seriously what we must do to guard against what is a clear crisis in terms of the climate. And to do that, we can do what we have accomplished thus far. The Inflation Reduction Act, what we have done to invest, by my calculation, over probably $1 trillion over the next 10 years, investing in a clean energy economy. What we've already done, creating over 300,000 new clean energy jobs. That tells me, from my experience as vice president, we can do it without banning fracking. In fact, Dana, excuse me, I cast the tie-breaking vote that actually increased leases for fracking.
There you go. So it turns out now I love fracking. My values haven't changed. First I said, yeah, we'll ban fracking. Then in the 2020 campaign, I softened on that. Then I cast a tie-breaking vote for fracking. But my values haven't changed. Maybe your values haven't changed. Maybe you just don't know what fracking is and you don't care. But that is how those issues slide away from the progressive base, right? I mean, that is how that gets away from you. Jordan Sheridan just interviewed the guy from Progressive Democrats of America, and I actually watched it just out of curiosity to see what they have to say about this. And yeah, when you hear progressives talk, they talk as if this is just a slow march towards social democratic reform. You wouldn't think that we are, 30 seconds from midnight on the nuclear annihilation clock. You wouldn't think that the country is in social collapse. You would think, no, we just got to keep moving the ball down the field, but they're not even doing that. They're not even moving the ball down the field. I mean, I don't know to what extent this should be a priority, honestly. It sounds to me like what I said was, I was joking, but I think that is the general attitude about this, which is like, yeah, this was a priority during the Bernie era because life was simpler. And now we just can't really afford to make it a priority anymore, even on the left. And she has certainly flip-flopped on that and gave a very, very sort of clumsy answer as to why.
Yeah, it's that arc of the universe bends towards justice bullshit that they get fed. And this is really the purpose. We talked about this. You dropped the clip today of our interview with Yeshitela. This is the entire purpose of identity politics. Kamala Harris is the purpose of identity politics. It is to create an illusion of progress. If you're not going to create real progress in the areas that really meaningfully affect people's lives, economic progress, environmental progress, well, you have to show something, right? Look, it's not an old white guy fucking you. Yay!
Yeah.
That's it. That is the whole purpose of that rhetoric. That's the whole purpose of that project. Not necessarily on the part of its original theoreticians, and not even necessarily on the part of a lot of the well-meaning activists, but within the political realm, that is the function it serves. It serves as a shield against real interrogation of policy.
Yes. Well, and look, on the interrogation of said policy, there's just not the momentum that there was 4 or 5 years ago. And now, you see people, Crystal Ball did a video of the Bernie to Trump pipeline. Kyle did it too. The Vanguard guys did their own sort of version of it, I guess. This is something that people are sort of re-examining now. And I think, I don't think what a lot of them are saying outright is that the Bernie movement is over and that we lost. And their answer to that is to simply capitulate to whatever furthest left candidate the Democrats allow you to vote for. And then they say anybody who doesn't do that is a closeted right-winger, which is just an absurd formulation. And this is really the evidence of that. I mean, something as simple as a fracking ban, which even Kamala Harris knew she had to support in 2019. Now the imperative is the exact opposite. Now she can't support it, right? Now she can't go there, right? So on the policy side, the sort of Bernie wing has ceded everything to the centrist Democrats, and the assumption amongst people who now say there's this, odious Bernie to Trump pipeline is that you're not actually on the left unless you conform to the furthest left option that the Democratic Party will allow you to vote for and allow you to put in office. And that's not a left at all. If that were a left, why not just back Hillary in 2016? She was the furthest left they would allow for. They wouldn't allow for Bernie. They rigged the primary against Bernie twice. So if you're only going to play by their rules and on their terms, why did you do this at all? Why even start down this road? Because if you look back on it, what they're saying now is if you don't fall in line, then you're not really on the... Okay, so then you should have just supported Hillary Clinton then, because they were never going to let Bernie win. It was very obvious from the start they weren't going to let Bernie win. So then what was this all for? It was just a giant jerk-off that made a lot of money for a lot of supposed progressive indie media podcasters.
Well, it is very funny hearing Crystal and Kyle, who spent a lot of time trying desperately and mostly unsuccessfully, it seems, to convince their audience that Marianne Williamson was a political project worth investing your time into, saying anything about strategy, politics, pragmatism. You guys told people to get behind Marianne Williamson until you just couldn't anymore without it just being embarrassing. And then you finally just dropped the subject. And you're going to talk about people's political choices. Now, look, I'm going to be, we always want to be fair on the show. And believe it or not, I'm going to say a kind word about Zach. What he said regarding the third parties this year being deeply unserious, I mean, he's not wrong about that. No. That is how I feel. And another point that he makes, and, I interviewed Jill Stein in Chicago, and we will extend an invitation to her to come on the show. But hey, man, we always call it straight. One point he made that was very valid was he said, well, Ralph Nader got 4% or something, and he said, in 2016, I think the Greens got 1 point something, and I guess in the last election, I don't know, they got like 0.6.
Oh, they got next to nothing. They got less than 1 point. Well, they had Howie Hawkins, who was a horrible candidate, but it was not nobody in the Trump reelection was going to vote for the Greens. I did, oddly enough, and I didn't vote for the Greens in 2016. I didn't vote at all. But I ended up voting for Hawkins anyway, just so that, my annoying friends and relatives who would be, did you vote? Did you vote? Well, last time when I said no, it was just a whole thing explaining to them why I didn't. So I did, and so I voted for Hawkins. But he did horribly. They have shrunk.
You could have done your part to elect Dave Chappelle, but instead you decided to throw your vote away. You could have voted with me and written in Dave Chappelle.
That's right. I don't think I knew
you voted Howie Hawkins.
No, I did it.
No, we did. We were doing we were just fucking around back then.
That's true. No, but I didn't know you voted for Dave Chappelle until afterwards, I think.
Yeah, I did. And hey, that looks like the smartest vote in the country now, doesn't it?
Looks pretty good.
Looks pretty good. Look, he made the point. The Greens, it's not a party that's gaining. They're going backwards. It's not a serious effort. I can't argue with that. Now, where he and the rest of them kind of go off the beam is okay, but you're assuming that's an argument not to invest your time and energy into the Green Party. It's not an effort to go back into the duopoly.
Right.
To make the argument that, well, hey, if you can't beat them, you got to join them. For what? For what? At that point, you might as well just, I don't know, take up a painting. Like, what are you even bothering with politics for? Like, the Democratic Party is never going to do anything that you want them to do. Like, what? You're going to bang your head against the wall, so maybe they'll vaccinate the people that they're enabling the genocide of? Is that what you're in it for? Is that what you're in politics for? So my argument, my answer, my respectful answer to that would be, well, hey, you're correctly identifying a problem, but you're misidentifying the solution. Like, yes, you could argue that the Democrats have control of the levers of power, given that the Democrats have made it quite clear that they're not going to do anything that you want them to do. Well, that's the problem. And now you have to go ahead and figure out, as I feel we have, this is why we're post-duopoly, well, you really need to advocate for general strikes, grassroots movement, union organizing. You need to build outside power. And you may use that outside power as pressure on the Democrats and / or on the Republicans, on the entire political system. But this is a conclusion. We didn't invent the wheel here. A lot of longtime activists end up there. This is not a new approach. They wind up saying, yeah, to hell with that. I'm going to work on my project. I'm going to work on this. All right, let's have a general strike to pressure the politicians, not the Democrats, to pressure the politicians to do this. You don't get involved in that. Once you get involved in that, it winds up requiring you to morally compromise in ways that make you no longer effective or truthful as an activist. That is the road to grifterhood, when you start to throw in your lot with these very dishonest, corrupt politicians with the logic, well, you got to go along to get along. Well, why, though? Why? Like, why are you not asking the next question? To me, you're leaving off too early. Yes, it's the Democrat. Yes, the Bernie side lost. The system is horribly corrupt. The answer to that is not to enable it. The answer, your next question should be, how do I destroy it? How do I blow it up? That metaphorically speaking, of course.
Well, yes, yeah, but look, it's not like you have any negotiating power. you have no negotiating power.
Right. They don't give
won't
a
even
shit what you say.
They don't care. The people, look, the swing voters in Pennsylvania want fracking for whatever economic reason. They're going to give them fracking. That's it. That's it. End of conversation. They will flip-flop on whatever they have to, as we saw multiple times throughout that interview. All right.
And I will just point out before we move on, we'll get into this more on the ADL thing with Nick. But hey, man, all of these people who are saying, well, we got to support Kamala Harris, who claim to be doing it reluctantly, who claim not to be one of them, who claim not to have been absorbed into the liberal class that, frankly, all of them were always a part of in the end. Why you got all these people going along with the narrative so quick that from the ADL, that Revolutionary Blackout Network are anti-Semitic?
Yeah, right.
Zach said that. Ben Burgess did a whole piece on that. It's pretty fucking funny because those of you who are new to the channel might not remember this, but the first big channel that ever put us on was RBN. It's a pretty funny choice for anti-Semitic channel to decide to pluck these two Jews out of obscurity and give them a platform. That was, I'm not positive about this, but I'm pretty sure that's how we got on Jimmy's radar, because he was working with them and he saw us on their channel. Then he came on our channel. We owe all that really to RBN. So that's a pretty funny thing. If they're anti-Semitic, they decided of all the people on YouTube to work with us. So at that point, even the argument, even if you're trying to say with Kamala, I haven't changed my values, well, either you never had any or you did. If you're parroting those talking points directly out of the mouth of the fucking ADL.
Yes. Ken Texican, I can't hang with you as dissident dudes this week, but like sometimes angry Mexican Jesus, a.k.a. Jesus, keep overtuning those tables at the temple and flipping birds when needs be. I'm out. Well, thank you. That was a very generous $50 donation. Let's have a cowbell for Ken Texican there. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Cryosynth, thanks for the $5. She's making herself very clear, ever clear 190 proof. Yeah, there you go. Let's see here. We got some YouTube super chats. Going to read these now. Britsman says, can we have a Vanguard Rose for all time's sake? Well, we mentioned them already. Hope that was satisfactory to you, Britsman. Eric Husso, thanks for the $5. Jimmy Dore is left. He just makes it about class politics and class war. Thank you, Eric Husso. Dave L., thanks for the $10. As the great Dr. Harry Frankfurt put it, the bullshit artist is a greater enemy of the truth than the liar. No left agenda is served by Dore's self-aggrandizing idiocy. Well, I don't agree with that, Dave, but I'll move on. Thanks for the $2. Appreciate that, JM. Thanks for the thumbs up. Are you guys fighting about Jimmy Dore? Is that what that is? And you decided to put a super chat on it to amplify that argument? Is that what that was about? Thanks for the $1, Irene Bertoni. Eric Husso, thanks for the $2. As president, I will not ban cackling. You will not ban cackling. That's right. Appreciate that. All right, let's keep going here. Let's see. We have two more Kamala clips on the CNN front. So here is Kamala Harris telling Dana Bash that her position on Israel will not differ from Joe Biden's. This is another instance of great waffling because she says, I will always make sure Israel has what it needs to defend itself. But we need a deal. And then when pressed, she reaffirms that, well, we're not going to change policy, but we need a deal. Here is international diplomacy at work.
Biden has tried unsuccessfully to end the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. He's been doing it for months and months, along with you. Would you do anything differently? For example, would you withhold some U.S. weapons shipments to Israel? That's what a lot of people on the progressive left want you to do.
Let me be very clear. I'm unequivocal and
she says, let me be very clear. It's a sign that she's not going to be clear. You know, she said, let me be very clear. I'm about to say two things at the same time. Right?
You got to love the Nixon classics.
Yeah. That's like saying, I'm going to be honest with you right now.
Let me make one thing perfectly clear.
Yes.
wavering in my commitment to Israel's defense. And unequivocal and unwavering in my commitment to Israel's defense and its ability to defend itself. And that's not going to change. But let's take a step back. October 7, 1,200 people were massacred. Many young people who were simply attending a music festival. Women were horribly raped. As I said then, I say today, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters.
Oh, that's nice.
Far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. And we have got to get a deal done. We were in Doha. We have to get a deal done. This war must end.
In the meantime,
and we must get a deal that is about getting the hostages out. I've met with the families of the American hostages. Let's get the hostages out. Let's get the ceasefire done.
but no change in policy in terms of arms and so forth.
No, we have to get a deal done. Dana, we have to get a deal done. When you look at the significance of this to the families, to the people who are living in that region, a deal is not only the right thing to do to end this war, but will unlock so much of what must happen next. I remain committed since I've been on October 8 to what we must do to work toward a two-state solution, where Israel is secure and in equal measure, the Palestinians have security and self-determination and dignity.
Okay, so there's a lot there.
Many of our donors are salivating at the chance to rebuild Gaza without its native population there, and we can't do that until Israel stops bombing. So we need a deal.
That's right. There's a lot there. Look, of course, we just have to mention every time, and we have to say, obviously, that we do not deny that atrocities and war crimes were committed on October 7th. Those war crimes are being investigated by the ICC, who handed down arrest warrants for both the Hamas leaders and the Netanyahu government. And obviously, those war crimes should be investigated. But, of course, mass rape used systematically as a weapon of war, every outlet that printed that went on has had to walk that back. And that is a lie at this point that she continues to tell every single chance she gets. No, absolutely, they all do. And so does she. And this talk about getting a deal for the hostage exchange, talk about a take that aged like spilt milk. 6 hostages were tragically killed over the past 48 hours. And there are now protests in Israel and a general strike pending in Israel. We're going to talk about this later in the show on the Rumble side. We have a whole segment on this. But the Israelis understand that Benjamin Netanyahu is using the hostages as an excuse to go and eradicate Gaza. And the people of Israel, not liberals by any means, would rather have their hostages back than have the war continue. And so Kamala Harris is surely pretending not to know that. Everybody in a position of power understands that. Everybody in a position of power understands that a full hostage exchange has been on the table for months now, and that it has been Netanyahu who has stymied deal after deal after deal because he is under investigation and he needs to keep this war going to save his own ass. The Israelis understand that. The Israelis understand that. They are flooding the streets of Tel Aviv as we speak right now, protesting as a result of these murders. And so you come out here, this was a few days before, and you say, well, we have to get a deal done, as if Benjamin Netanyahu is not the impediment to that deal. So out of one side of your mouth, you're saying we have to get a deal done. Out of the other side of your mouth, you're saying we're always going to make sure, always, unconditionally and unequivocally, make sure that they have weapons. Well, what you're saying then is you're not going to get a deal done. Because Netanyahu doesn't want a deal done. Netanyahu wants to wipe Gaza out and use the fact that the hostages are not back as an excuse to do that in order to run out the clock so that he does not become the target of the investigations that that the heat is not turned up under him as it was pre-October 7th. And so to just pretend not to know any of that and just appeal to, and this is what I said earlier, I said this, a week ago now? This is why the country, as a political entity, I don't wish harm upon ordinary people, obviously, but as a political entity, this country does not deserve success because she's talking to us as if we don't understand that. And you know what? I think a lot of Americans don't understand that. I think a lot of Americans are too incurious to bother understanding that. And if the Israelis understand that, then maybe we should understand that when we go to vote.
Well, it goes well beyond that. And with Kamala Harris, she's such a puppet. She's such a stooge. It's hard to know how much of this history she really understands. But this is just the latest in almost a century, really, of not just Israel, of the entire Western world playing a divide and conquer game with the Arab world. Now we decry that we don't have secular forces in that area to deal with. That's because we destroyed them. Israel funded, built up, and empowered Hamas to act as a counter to the secular socialist Fatah. And Western powers did that all over that region. You have a lot of people who are under the misimpression, that Islamic culture is inherently fundamentalist, that it's inherent to the religion, that it's inherent to their societies. And what's really funny is those same people will pass around pictures of women in miniskirts in Iran before the revolution with complete and absolute ignorance of why it did not secularize in that way. The fact that the West did not allow it to secularize in that way. The fact that when there was a secularization movement of a socialist character rising up in the Arab world in the post-war period as the colonial empires collapsed, we sent in our intelligence agencies to whack out their leaders, including in Iran, installing the Shah. Eventually, the Ayatollah and the Iranian Revolution was the blowback from those operations. Same thing here. MI6, the CIA, they were all involved in limiting the powers of the PLO and Fatah, making sure that a real secular, successful government could not take root in these regions. And now having Kamala go up there, this is what's so disingenuous about it. Although in her particular case, it's hard to know how much she really understands that history. Certainly the people pulling her strings understand that history. To say, we need a two-state solution. Well, we've been helping to thwart that solution for the entire history of the state of Israel. And everybody knows one phone call from the United States would end this tomorrow. We're not sending you any more money. We're not sending you any more weapons. We're going to sanction you. One phone call like that from the United States, it would be the end of this war. Immediately. The idea that we don't have that power, and this is the same thing they do domestically. Oh, the parliamentarian, yeah. Gosh, I wish we could get a peace deal. You know, we just sent them $20 billion and a bunch more bombs. It's so strange that we can't get them to negotiate in good faith. Wow, I don't know why that is. How much more do you need?
Well, yeah, of course. And look, everything you said there is true. That requires a bit more understanding than I think, is required to just understand the immediate short-term absurdity of saying on one side, we're going to make sure we are unequivocal in our support for Israel's right to defend itself, but we need a deal. You don't have to know all that. I mean, it's great that you do, and it's great that we all understand that. And yes, Americans should understand that as best they can. What you have to understand right now as it pertains to this question is that Benjamin Netanyahu is the obstacle to a deal. If the Israelis, who are probably the most brainwashed population of people on the planet, if they understand that, then we should be able to understand that. And for everybody who's trying to gaslight us saying, well, I think she's just playing it close to the vest. I think she has some other plan as to what she's going to do on Israel-Palestine. Well, people make that excuse for Donald Trump. right? Well, maybe he'll do something. I mean, yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe pigs will fly in 5 years. Maybe there will be some genetic mutation and pigs will be able to fly. I mean, there's no evidence for that.
If
There's no
my
evidence
theory
for
about
that.
China is true, they will.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, that is more of the same. And that is why I say if your red line is genocide, and if not that, what? I mean, how could you go and pull the lever for this? How could you? I mean, it's just horrible. It's just pathetic. And it's just pathetic that the conversation on the left is even about fracking at this point. Fracking. Look what's happening. Look what's happening, right? I mean, how is that not top of mind, most urgent? Right? We talk about, well, yeah, I mean, they're terrible on this, but maybe we'll get a fracking ban.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. What are you talking about?
There's a meme going around. I forget who originally said it. It was he's I think an ex-Columbia professor. I'm not sure if he said it in a TED Talk or if he's given a TED Talk. I got to get this guy's name. But he said, if they can get your vote while supporting a genocide, they know there's nothing they can't do to you.
Exactly. Yep.
That's why you don't vote for them. If you want to know why, that's why.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, folks. Let's do a little ad read for our friends at Rumble, who have a merch store up now. Rumble's exclusive apparel has finally arrived. They're now offering 20% off all purchases in the Rumble store with the discount code DROP20, DROP20, as it says right up on the screen. If you want to support the brand that is fighting for free speech and fighting for our First Amendment, this is the best way to do it, and it's the best time to do it. We have a lot of free speech-centered segments on our show tonight. It is getting rough out there, folks. So if you want to support a free speech brand, this is the one. They have tees, sweaters, hats, and much more. Go to rumble.store and make sure to enter DROP20 as the promo code to get 20% off your entire order, not just one piece, the whole order. So you can bundle it up. Rumble.store, DROP20. All right, beautiful. Yeah, listen, folks, it is getting really rough out there. We have more than half of the show devoted to this.
There's been a run on assless chaps, but they will have them back in the Rumble store next week.
Yeah, right, exactly. Just waiting on the new shipment for those, right?
I understand that's mostly our audience.
Yes, yeah, big into that. Web Angel PB, you guys really should do a reaction to Crystal from Broken Points telling her viewers that since Kamala has no core values, it'll be easier to push her left. Oh, is that part of that monologue?
Did she say that in that monologue?
Or was that a different one? I watched her monologue.
Yeah. Yes, I did. I don't remember that.
Blank state. Everyone voted against Green New Deal when it was brought to a vote in the U.S. Senate in 2019. Even Bernard Sanders with a citation there. Hey, good for you, blank state, with the receipts. Bringing it. Love that. Okay, let's see here. We got Quintessential. Thanks for the 25, whatever that currency is. I think it's about $5 US. Thank you for that. Vanguard and Burgess officially calls RBN anti-Semitic. Do you agree with bad empanada? At least withhold your vote from Harris till White House ends the slaughter. Who is bad empanada? I've heard of them, but it doesn't ring a bell. Look, the Green Party would-be vice presidential candidate. There was a Palestinian, I think she was a human rights attorney, said that her strategy was going to be if she joined the Jill Stein ticket, was arms embargo to Israel. If you enact that, not promise that, if you enact that now, we'll drop out. And I thought that made sense because they're not going to enact an arms embargo. And that gives you a pretty good argument against all the people who shame the Green Party. Hey, look, we said we'll just stop genociding people and we'll drop out. They'd rather genocide people and lose to Trump than not genocide people and win, because according to lib logic, the Greens are the ones costing the Democrats the election. So here, we'll give you the election right now. Just stop enabling the mass murder of innocent children. So, that would have been a decent pressure tactic because it would have just been a good PR tactic for the Greens. But, yeah, look, they're not going to end the slaughter. And so people should not vote for them. That's it. I mean, I don't even think it makes sense to be like, hey, under this condition, we'll vote for you. They're not going to. They're just not going to.
Right.
Can a Brahmin Indian advocate for Palestinians? I know myself. I don't see why not.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I
don't
think
see why not.
I think Vishnu would support that.
Yeah, I'm not an expert, but I don't see why that would be a problem. Kenman G, Kamala, it's time to save the planet by doing what we have been doing with every change in temperature, and that temperature is both hot and cold. There you go. You could be a speechwriter for her, Kenman. Thank you for that. Noah Goop, thanks for the $1. Ukraine launched the biggest drone attack of the war yet on Moscow today. Not a peep from alt media. I'm getting concerned that not only mainstream but alternative media is ignoring this war. We will look into that for Tuesday. We had a lot of catching up to
we
do.
just covered it Thursday.
Yeah,
didn't
we just did something on it. Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
Thursday or Tuesday. Not bloody likely. Thanks for the $27.99. Thank you, guys. I can't believe the U.S. and Hell State are still allowed to continue this massacre. I can't celebrate anything anymore, and I don't think it's unreasonable at all. Thank you, Not Bloody Likely. I appreciate that. Golna Marchesi, thanks for the $20 super sticker. That's very generous. And Lyndon McLeod, thanks for the 50 Canadian dollars. Let's give a cowbell to Lyndon McLeod there. And I like your chat. It's simply, let me be clear.
All right, hang on.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
We're getting sloppy with this. We passed this on YouTube.
Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. Beautiful. Yes, 2,200 in the YouTube chat, 1,400 in the Rumble chat. Please hit that like button, hit that follow button over on Rumble, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. And Noah Goop, let me be very clear, that's a KJP classic right there. There you go. Thank you very much, Noah. Appreciate that. Okay, folks, we have one more clip from the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz interview on CNN because, of course, it was kind of peculiar. A lot of people thought that Tim Walz was there at all. And so he did get a question in, and now we finally get the wide shot, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, so we could see interesting choice of location, the busted out sporting goods store from The Sopranos. That's where you would pick to have an interview of this. Kind of a weird room. So it's like that's what it feels like. It's like a break room at a department store at a mall or something like that. Usually they have like a couch with nice lighting and shit like that. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, because I just saw the painting, I definitely recognize the location as the diner from Nighthawks.
Yeah, there you go.
Hopper painting.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm pretty sure they ran down the inspiration.
Of course, this is the question that he kind of tripped up on here about whether or not he saw combat in war. He seemed to have phrased a lot of experiences in the past as though he had experienced combat when it seems as though he did not. So let's hear him on this question.
Said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about our children being shot in schools and around guns. So I think people know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again, my record has been out there for over 40 years to speak for itself.
And the idea that you said that you were in war, did you misspeak as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar is not always correct. But again, if it's not this, it's an attack on my children for showing love for me, or it's an attack on my dog. I'm not going to do that. And the one thing I'll never do is I'll never demean another member's service in any way. I never have, and I never will.
Yeah, those aren't bad skills there, except for the fact that, he is on camera multiple times saying that he saw combat when apparently he did not see combat. And so that was the question, at hand. And actually did a decent enough job spinning off it, but there's only so much spin you could do, right? I mean, everybody sees the tape now with social media and everything. Here's the thing I got to say about this guy real quick. Don't forget, folks, as much as certain people in this sort of alt media space are acting like Tim Walz is the new standard bearer for the 21st century left, he is, at the end of the day, he's a backbencher. He's a B-teamer. I mean, when you think about it, why wasn't Gavin Newsom in the conversation for VP? Why wasn't Gretchen Whitmer in the conversation for VP? Because those are their A-listers. Those are the ones they want to throw out there in 2028 when they feel they have a real shot because they can run a real campaign. They figured when they were putting this ticket together at the last minute, this is Trump's race to lose. There's a 50-50 chance he'll blow it because he's an idiot, but all we have to do is be as generic as possible here. We're not going to play our ace in this election. And this guy's not their ace. He's not there. He was never in any conversation about presidential material. Nobody ever heard of this guy until Biden dropped out. So if the Democrats felt they really wanted to go all in on this election, he wouldn't have been the guy. Newsom would have been the guy. Whitman, one of their A-listers would have been the guy. This guy's a backbencher at the end of the day. And as backbenchers go, I guess he was folksy enough to provide some balance to the ticket, making him what I would say a DEI hire. I would say he's a DEI hire. They needed a normie white man for the ticket, and they hired him, you know. But that's ultimately what this guy is. I mean, this guy is no great shakes. No great shakes.
Well, also remember, if you look at the history of VP picks, the problem is always you want a VP who's strong enough that they can do the job, which is basically to be an attack dog for the top of the ticket, without being despised. They have to be kind of slick and charismatic, but they can't outshine the principal.
Right.
And the worse your principal is, the further toward the bottom of the barrel you have to go to fulfill that requirement.
Right.
So to not outshine Kamala, you got to go pretty far down the well to find the person who's not going to outshine that bright bulb.
That's true. Newsom would have outshined. Yeah, that's true.
Right. So you know, I mean, that's something Trump is very sensitive about. That's how he wound up with Pence. Pence is never going to outshine him. And frankly, that might be part of why he didn't grab Tulsi. You know, we've only speculated on it as a move of overconfidence, which it is. But it may also be a move of Tulsi's got skills, and she actually is a very attractive woman. She actually does have charisma. She actually is a strong public speaker. So that could have been part of it too, man. He might have been afraid that Tulsi would outshine him. I mean, he's a ding dong. Come on, man. He's a Borscht Belt comic.
Yes.
How would he really look next to? You know, we're not fans of hers at this point, but she's a serious person. How would Trump look next to Tulsi? That were his next to Tulsi. As far as Walz goes, this guy is a candidate for the Joe Biden Baron Munchausen Award. Like every day there's just something else that he bullshitted about. Grammar. Yeah. Your grammar led you to repeatedly claim that you were a combat, and that is just sickening. This is part of what makes me so sick about and this is true of politicians in general, but the Democrats in particular. You know, the way they decided they're going to brand this guy as just a simple rube, just a folksy guy. And you know, there was a whole team, there was a whole committee that decided to have him say something about grammar, but oh shucks, to just give it the oh shucks treatment. Yeah, okay. And then to start talking about his child and his dog and look, Bash, if you watch that whole interview, you know, she can't just do a People magazine profile. You know, she knows she can't make it obvious that that's what she's doing, but that's essentially what she did. You have very limited time with them because they know Kamala's a ticking time bomb, and every minute she's in an interview it exponentially increases the danger that she's going to start laughing uncontrollably until that laugh devours the entire universe, setting off an Oppenheimer reaction. So she got very limited time. She brings up the whole thing with the son. Oh, how did that feel? Now that is meant to signal to libs, because there's no reason to ask that. It's an extremely trivial thing to ask within this very limited time you have with them. We're the good people. He has a mentally disabled son, and we're going to put a spotlight on that. That's the only purpose of that question. But in the end, she asked a couple things about fracking, right? So she did her job. So it was very much a softball interview where she tried to give the appearance of doing legitimate journalism, but nonetheless, she asked about the photo of her niece while watching her. Like there's no that's something that's a puff piece.
They had about 40 minutes in the can.
A news magazine kind of a profile.
They had about 40 minutes in the can, and they only used about 18, right? So there was a lot of stuff that they didn't use.
Yeah, I would love to see some of that stuff.
And that's what made it in. But, I would say, the other thing about this...
Walz, just one more thing. So Walz, this just came out too. His whole origin story about how he got into politics is a lie. He said he brought 2 kids to go see George Bush speak, and they wouldn't let them in because the kids had Kerry pins. This was in 2004, and that's when he decided he had never thought about getting into politics. All a lie. All a lie. He actually did get into that speech. The kids did not have Kerry pins. They were not his students. And the reason there was some hesitation to let them in is, I'm not sure what the controversy was, but they had been the subject of some controversy that was covered in the news that week. But ultimately, they got in too. So his whole origin story is made up.
Yeah, but look, what I would say about the story about his son, this is why I said very early on, before Walz was even in the picture, right? As soon as Kamala became the nominee and you started seeing the stuff about the DEI and the Willie Brown and this and that stuff, that shit that some of the conservative Twitter chuds tried to pull with Walz's kid.
Well, that's why
stuff.
Dana Bash threw that in.
That's why she threw it in.
She's advocating without saying it, but that is advocacy.
Yes, but what I'm saying is
just by including that.
Right, but what I predicted as soon as Kamala became the nominee was that the Republicans were going to give Democrats and their media allies the opportunity to go there.
Sure.
By taking these ridiculous shots. I mean, some of the shit, like Ann Coulter, said some horrible thing about his kid. I mean, that just hands them the issue. Hands them the issue.
Of course.
Like, you have to be more disciplined.
There's no upside to that.
There's no upside to that. When the media is against you, as they are, they're going to take everything you give them and use it against you. That's what you have to understand. If you are a Trump surrogate, even if you're on social media and you have, more than 50,000 followers where your tweet's going to get out there, anything they'll use and they can use against you, they will. And there's been a lot of sloppiness on the Trump campaign this past month or so with RFK and Tulsi on the trail for them. Maybe they will recenter around more substantive issues. That's going to be a big question mark down the home stretch of the campaign for sure, as to whether or not they can get the momentum back.
Yeah, what animal story is going to come out about RFK this week?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, good things come in threes. That's right. These things usually drop in threes, so there might be something coming down the pike. That's a good insight. Soccer Papa, Russell and Keaton, the DDR, East Germany, eradicated homelessness. Meanwhile, half of the Justice Ministry of the FRG, West Germany, were Nazi Party members. Where's Tusker when I need her? Yeah, the far right just had a triumph in Germany for the first time since World War II, actually. Ellen Jimerson says, amen. One phone call. Why I like y'all guys so much. You both have the tone and passion of a Baptist preacher trying to save us all. Me in the amen corner, encouraging y'all with come on and uh-oh. There you go. Thank you, Ellen. Appreciate that very, very much.
Dear Dissidents, the only podcast with its own chaplain.
That's right. We have our own chaplain. That's true. We do. Noah Goop, heads up for your World War III watch. Russia's updating their nuclear doctrine, probably clarifying the red line so they can use nuclear weapons when they're crossed without global condemnation. Thank you, Ellen. To clarify my earlier comment, I just love y'all. We love you too, Ellen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellen.
Hey, folks, if you would like to support this program, you can do so by becoming a member at patreon.com/DoDissidents. You can also join our Substack at DoDissidents.substack.com. You can also join our locals at DoDissidents.locals.com. If you're watching on Rumble, which 1,600 of you are now, you can join our locals by clicking that bright red join button underneath the screen. You get your name up in lights here on the patron scroll. You'll also get call-in access to our post-show Q&As every Sunday night on Rumble tonight, Sunday. So we are going to have a Q&A tonight. So if you want to call in, go become a member for just $5 a month to get those 2 perks plus bonus shows. We do 2 bonus live streams every month exclusively for paid members, and those are interactive. Those are call-in shows as well. So we try our best to make it worth your while. We're going to start our Dissident Film Club back up as a patron exclusive feature this month. I'm assuming we'll start that this month sometime. And so those are the perks for joining, as well as the good karma of supporting independent media. And round of applause for Jake in the booth this evening. Jake is here with us, Field and Rumble Rants. Jake, beautiful job, as always. Thank you very much. Sparky for $10 over on YouTube says, I wondered why they didn't turn over the reins to Kamala 2 years ago so she could run as an incumbent. After seeing the interview, I realized Biden's still cognitively better off than her. Yes, well, thank you, Sparky. But hey, this is one caveat that we have given this whole time. You talk about an October surprise that they have up their sleeve. That could be a killer right there. If Biden steps down, she gets to govern as an incumbent for 1 month. Sign a couple executive orders that people like, do a couple of good things right at the last minute. Don't think they won't do that.
Have a late term
if they
abortion.
think they have to. Yeah, have a late term abortion. Yeah, that's right. She can administer an abortion. That's true. Yeah, don't put it past them. They might have something up their sleeve in that way. Sudi, thanks for the $13.99 new subscriber and a round of applause. Well, thank you very much for that. Appreciate you. Welcome to the show. Brundle Dan, thanks for the $5. People need to ask themselves whether they really want to listen to this voice for 4 to 8 years. Thank you, Brundle Dan. Appreciate that. And Sparky says, remember Kamala married her APAC handler. Thank you. More Mammoth talk, says Dominic D'Angelo. More Mammoth talk. Did you guys see Spring 2025 will have Bill Burr and Odenkirk in Glengarry on Broadway? No. Really aiming to make the trip from Pittsburgh. Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, that'll be great. That's going to do very well. I wonder who would he play in that? What role would he play? There are so many great roles in that.
There
you
are
don't
several
really know.
roles he could play.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, though. That is pretty cool that he'll be in that play.
That's great casting.
Yeah, that is great casting. I never got to see Sam Rockwell in American Buffalo. I really wanted to. That was great casting. You talk about great casting. Having him as that role as Teach, that's one of my favorite plays ever, and that character is one of my favorite characters in all of theater. I might go to the Lincoln Center archive to watch that on tape someday. They do that at the Lincoln Center Library. You can watch the archive performances. Yeah, I might do that.
I do. You know what I would love to go see? The archived performance of Steve Martin and Robin Williams doing Waiting for Godot.
Oh, yeah. That would be great, too. Did you see that Bengal Tiger at the Baghdad Zoo with Robin Williams on Broadway? That was great. That was very good.
Speaking of theater, I will say I posted ads for submissions, and they are pouring in. They are pouring in. I am very encouraged. That we're going to get enough good material to do this thing.
Yes. Yeah, we have a lot of submissions, and you can send them to dudissidents@gmail.com if you got them. But we got a lot of submissions for sure. So we've been sorting that stuff out. Because 67, they should do a Cyrano de Bergerac with Harris. Earpieces are so small nowadays. Thank you, because appreciate that. Okay, why don't we go on to segment number 4? Russell, this one is yours.
Which one is this?
We're going to do Elon. We're going to do Elon.
Right. Throw it up.
And Brazil. All right, here we go.
All right, hang on.
I got it.
All right. So Elon, friend of show, Elon Musk, is in a bit of a battle here with the Brazilian government, or with one particular member of the government, one of the Supreme Court justices there. And they have suspended X. Brazil's Supreme Court on Friday ordered a nationwide suspension of Elon Musk's social network X after the company vowed to defy earlier court orders concerning content moderation and the appointment of a legal representative in the country. Alexandre de Moraes, the court's top judge, has also ordered daily fines for people or businesses in Brazil that use VPNs, virtual private networks, or other methods to access X while the site is banned in the country, G1 Global reported. The court issued a statement via its government website in Brazil on Friday, saying that it had ordered, quote, the immediate and complete suspension of the operation of X, formerly Twitter, throughout the national territory until the court's judicial decisions are complied with and the fines applied are paid, unquote. The statement also said that the order will be valid until a representative of the company in the country is appointed. Hours later, the court issued a second order suspending some of the measures in its first 51-page order against X. Initially, de Moraes gave companies like Apple and Google 5 days to stop offering X downloads in their app stores and to stop making VPN apps available to access X. The second order eliminated that deadline and put off implementation of these measures until further notice, giving time for X to pay fines and put a legal representative in place. Brazil's Supreme Court announced on Wednesday that Musk and X had 24 hours to either appoint a legal representative for its business there or face a penalty of suspension of activities nationwide. The deadline passed Thursday evening. X's Global Government Affairs Unit said in a statement late Thursday that it was expecting the de Moraes shutdown soon because the company would not comply with his orders. Brazil, a major non-NATO ally of the U.S., is now preparing for October municipal elections. Under Brazil's laws, social media companies operating in the country must employ someone to handle government takedown notices, including those regarding political misinformation and incitements to violence. X has no such representative in Brazil, and it said earlier this month that it would remove all its employees from the country rather than face any possible arrests over non-compliance with court orders. A suspension of X in Brazil could cause business problems for Musk's already embattled company. Brazil has a population of more than 171 million active social media users, according to market research by USGA. Musk led the $44 billion acquisition of Twitter in late 2022. He implemented sweeping changes and reinstated previously banned and suspended accounts, leading many major advertisers to flee or cut spending on ad campaigns. The World Bank stopped paying for campaigns on X after a CBS News investigation found ads from the organization appeared under a racist post from an X account that regularly posted, quote, pro-Nazi and white nationalist content. What was that, the WEF? It was posted under the WEF. Musk lashed out at de Moraes in a series of posts after the court had frozen the finances of Starlink, the satellite internet service provided by Musk's SpaceX in Brazil. Starlink has advertised on X under Musk's management, and Musk has encouraged people in Brazil to use Starlink to access the social media platform. De Moraes' court had fined X for alleged violations of Brazilian law and froze Starlink finances in the country to ensure those fines are paid. Critics of de Moraes view his court's orders against X as an overreach. His court has a history of suspending social media apps until they comply with regulations in the country. Meta-owned WhatsApp and Telegram have both been suspended in Brazil but reinstated, for example. On Friday, Musk compared de Moraes to movie villain Voldemort and shared a post describing the evil tyranny of Moraes. Representatives for X and for the U.S. Embassy in Brazil weren't immediately available to comment. Musk has repeatedly denounced de Moraes' court orders as censorship. In its Thursday statement, X said de Moraes' court had taken illegal actions against the company. On Friday, after news of the suspension, Musk said on X, the oppressive regime in Brazil is so afraid of the people learning the truth that they will bankrupt anyone who tries. So Elon, through X, has been throwing a lot at de Moraes. Here's one of his less serious tweets on August 29th. Grok, generate an image as if Voldemort and a Sith Lord had a baby and he became a judge in Brazil. It's uncanny. Now, the funny thing is the outfit, that's not actually AI. He actually does wear that outfit.
Yeah, his actual, yeah.
That's his actual judge's robes. Only the lightsabers are added. So now they have started to drop files on this judge, basically in an attempt to wage a kind of PR war against him. So here's Elon again. This is on the 31st, yesterday. There is growing evidence that fake judge Alexandre engaged in serious, repeated, and deliberate election interference in Brazil's last presidential election. Under Brazilian law, that would mean up to 20 years in prison. And I'm sorry to say that it appears that some former Twitter employees were complicit in helping him do so. Anyone with examples or evidence to this effect, please reply to this post. So now, this is today, they started dumping these files on X. Today, we launched the daily data dump on the crimes under Brazilian law that fake judge Alexandre has committed. He can block this platform in Brazil, but he can't stop the whole world from knowing his illegal, shameful, and hypocritical deeds. Karma's a bitch, bro. So this is the Alexandre files. Now, Michael Schellenberger, he was actually one of the authors on the Brazil version of the Twitter files. So he's been on this beat for a while. So here he retweets the files saying, this is insane. The Brazilian dictator, Alexandre, demanded that X secretly block a sitting federal senator without any explanation for why. He gave X 2 hours to comply. This is a direct violation of Brazil's constitution and election interference. So here is the first thing they've dropped, showing what they were told to do. So according to X, the order, well, they say this is the actual order they got.
Right.
X must block within 2 hours and in secret the following accounts, including that of a sitting Brazilian senator, in their entirety without any reference to a single illegal post from any of the accounts. So these are the accounts they were told to ban. And then they got a reference here to Brazilian law, including Article 5. All persons are equal under the law without any distinction whatsoever, Brazilians and foreigners residing in the country being ensured of inviolability of the right to life, to liberty, to equality, to security, and to property on the following terms. The expression of thought is free and anonymity is forbidden. The expression of intellectual, artistic, scientific, and communications activities is free, independently of censorship or license. Paragraph 2, any and all censorship of a political, ideological, and artistic nature is forbidden. Okay, so similar to our First Amendment, really, if you look at the terms there. We should have Glenn on. I'm sure he could explain that to us better. But Michael went on and he did a video here explaining some of what's going on here. So we're just going to play a little section here to really look at how this ties back to the United States and what is so dangerous about Kamala Harris and the forces that she represents.
At the same time, the Biden administration and Democrats have played an influential role in instigating the censorship in Brazil. The FBI went to Brazil and gave its Supreme Court justices advice on how to censor its population. The U.S. government has been funding many of the NGOs in Brazil that have been demanding censorship since the election of a populist president there in 2018. And when I testified before Congress in May of this year, the Democrats on the committee and their witness all defended Brazil's censorship. And Pacheco yesterday affirmed his support for Moraes. The U.S. government, after the election of the populist President Jair Bolsonaro in 2018, funded these pro-censorship organizations which have been demanding censorship. Moraes yesterday openly defended censorship to prevent extremist populist groups from coming to power. As United States Federal Communications Commissioner Brendan Carr noted yesterday, That's a direct violation of the Brazilian Constitution, which explicitly protects political speech. As such, the totalitarian takeover of Brazil is a model for what the Democrats and the legacy news media want for the whole world. Pro-censorship scholars at Stanford and Harvard, Democrats in Congress, and the U.S. news media have long recognized that the First Amendment is an obstacle to their plans. And so they have supported censorship efforts by nations around the world with weaker free speech protections, like Brazil, Britain, Australia, and the European Union. They're looking for them to censor and even block X. We need to grow our global free speech movement.
Okay, so this is the alarm that Schellenberger has been raising for a while. That what the intelligence services are trying to do is pressure countries with weaker free speech laws without a First Amendment to pass these draconian acts so that these tech platforms will ultimately change their protocols in ways that impact the United States. And as we'll see tonight, these efforts are not limited to that. We are seeing an increasing amount of harassment of journalists, particularly in the UK. But we've seen the CEO of Telegraph charged in France. And we've seen this happening now in the United States. Legit friend of show, Danny Shaw, just got rousted at the airport. So we are seeing this real kind of fascist, rainbow fascism coming from the liberal side. And that is inevitable. When you look at the language of neoliberalism, of the liberal class, it is a language of people who see themselves as the moral betters of their political opponents. Now, ultimately, if you believe that you are fundamentally, morally superior to your opponents, well, censorship is not only desirable, it's inevitable. It's inevitable because you do not feel that they have a legitimate right to speak. You fundamentally don't believe they have a right to speak. And if you look at what's been going on, particularly since 2016, it is the entire liberal establishment trying to find ways to claim that they believe in freedom of speech while justifying censorship. They've really spent the last 8 years in their rhetorically and increasingly fundamentally in their actions and through the use of the tools of the state and through pressure on these tech platforms, they are making actionable their fundamental belief that they are the rightful masters of society, of mores, of culture, of law, and that their political opponents are not just wrong, they're dangerous enemies of the state who must be dealt with by any means necessary.
Well, I would say also that, and just, I mean, Schellenberger referenced this there, but you know, that's true. That is in the court document, a fear that social media will give rise to extremist populist groups and unbalance election results. So it is very, very obvious that this is an attempt to steer public opinion away from the quote unquote populist candidates or populist movements and funnel all discourse in a direction within a certain Overton window. Very, very similar to the liberal class here, as Russell mentioned. The branding that is just so fundamental to liberal politics is that you are, if you support us, virtuous. You are good. Yes. The opponents are bad. That alone creates a sort of icing on the censorship cake. If Trump is president, is Danny Shaw still going to get shaken down at the airport? Yes, I think so. Right. But you're not going to have this because conservatives don't have that sort of moral superiority and moral virtue as such a core part of their branding. That's not to say there's not a culture war waged on that side. But as we're going to see in our next piece about Robert Reich, The idea that you have the inside knowledge, you are the privileged class in society, that is the enlightened class, that makes them more inclined to do more censorship online because discourse itself offends them if they cannot contain it. And on the right, there is not that obsession with containing discourse. Now, ultimately, fascism, as defined by our friend Tusker and as echoed brilliantly, in my opinion, by Caleb Maupin when you guys interviewed him, is capitalism's response to a social crisis. The only way that capitalism can respond to a social crisis is by suppressing that agitation.
Right.
And that will take the form of censorship, which is why, yes, Donald Trump will do it too. They are just not going to do it as broadly and in this context because shit posting on Twitter doesn't violate the sort of core brand proposition of right-wing politics the way it does neoliberal left-wing politics. So that's why they are especially dangerous in this context. And this is done with the specific intent of containing discourse as stated by this judge. That's what's so outrageous about it. He's not being shy about this whatsoever. Not at all.
Right. And that is clearly what they want here. And this is why we're really, in terms of free speech, this is why we're really trapped between the Scylla and Charybdis with Trump and Harris. If we just narrow it down to this one issue, you've had NYU just revise its guidelines to define anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism. And clearly things are going to continue in that direction under the Democrats, as well as under Donald Trump. I don't know that it will really be worse. It's I posted a meme that got a lot of attention on X. It didn't originate with me; it was somebody else's. But about how don't tell me I have to vote for Harris because things are going to be worse for Palestinians under Trump. It can't really be worse than genocide.
Right.
Somebody commented there. What is he going to do? Dig up the bodies and kill them again? And that is a very valid point. I kind of feel the same way in this area, but with Biden as president, Danny Shaw is getting rousted at the airport. So how much worse is it going to be under Donald Trump than what they're doing? NYU is a liberal institution, right? A liberal institution. Really, the concern is in this one area where they overlap. In terms of speech, as you say, more broadly, sure, Donald Trump would be better more broadly. You'd have a president who would be saying, this is a terrible thing what they're doing in Brazil. Why are they doing this to my friend Elon? He's done so much for the world.
Yeah, exactly.
They're treating him so terribly. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
It's very unfair. Very unfair.
But look and understand, they won't comply with having a representative in the country because they're afraid their representative will get arrested,
Of course, right.
Particularly after what just happened in France. It's a very valid fear.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. All right, folks. This sounds like a good opportunity to move some free speech coffee. What do you have to say about that?
Damn right.
Let's give this a shot here, all right? Have you heard of the recent advertising scandal? Well, I'll break it down for you. The CEO of Rumble, Chris Pavlovski, recently released an email from Inspire Brands and Dunkin' Donuts. That email explicitly states that the, quote, right-wing culture of Rumble is too polarizing. In other words, Dunkin' Donuts has a problem with right-wing culture and wants nothing to do with it or with Rumble. So here's a solution. Stop buying products that don't support free speech and start supporting brands that do. The competing coffee brand that we all need to get behind is Rumble's 1775 coffee. So for a limited time, Rumble is offering buy 2 bags of coffee and get 1 for free. That's buy 2, get 1 free. So if you go to 1775coffee.com and enter promo code Duncan, that's good trolling right there. Excellent troll game by Rumble. 1775coffee.com, promo code Duncan to get this limited time deal. Buy 2 bags, get 1 free. That's 1775coffee.com. Duncan, Dunkin, is the promo code. There we go.
All right.
Beautiful. All right.
Hey, while we're paused, I can give credit for that meme. All right. So once they have your vote after perpetrating genocide, They know there's nothing you won't allow them to do. That is Anthony Zenkus.
Oh, there you go. Professor Zenkus. That's our friend.
There you
go. Yes, good quote there by the professor for sure. Okay, Hillary Hinton, ever get the feeling that we're living in Paul freaking Verhoeven film? Yeah, that's a good. Yeah.
That should be one of our movies. We should do RoboCop.
Yeah, RoboCop, that's a classic. Absolutely. 716-312. Thanks for the $50. That's good for a cowbell. Thank you guys for everything you do. Fight. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. Appreciate that very much. Let's go to YouTube here. Sparky for $10. People wonder after watching the interview, how on earth did Kamala ever pass the bar exam? Oh, that's a crude joke, Sparky. I can't read that. I told you that violates our new policy. I'm so money, and I don't care. Sorry, I ran into a character.
I did make a joke about furniture, sex, and Willie Brown in this.
Yeah, that's true.
episode.
That's true. Well, at least so did I.
That was classy though.
Yeah, that was a classy one. Kamala is pronounced like comma, as in the punctuation mark. Doug Emhoff is pronounced like tug 'em off, as in Kamala placates Israel. There you go. That's a good one. I like that one. Namak, thank you for the $5. Palestinian man was found hanging from a tree with hands and feet tied in a high-security Jewish neighborhood in Belgium. Cops say no leads. Can you cover?
I heard something about that.
I have not. I did not hear anything about that. That's horrible.
No,
so yes, we will look into that.
Yeah, if that were a Jewish person, you would have heard about it. It would
be.
They're dying for something like that to happen.
Brahmin Indians, e.g., Kamala, believe in caste slavery. Oh, okay. So she's a Brahmin Indian. I didn't know that. I didn't know anything about the Brahmin Indians. I didn't know she called herself a Brahmin Indian. I always thought she was just black. That's what she says now. Posmo, thank you for the $5. Allegedly, interview was 40 minutes, had to cut to 18. Bash followed up on how to reconcile fracking with climate change. Kamala will get it done. Kamala in the upcoming debate says, I'm so money, and that little abortion was me. There you go. Thank you for the $5. SB, thanks for the $5.
Didn't take.
Yeah, there you go. SB, thanks for the $5. Miniskirt babblers, Iran diaspora don't like to talk about Iran democracy. The Shah overthrew, or the skirts were all rich girls while everyone starved. Sammy73, thanks for the, I think that's about $20 American, if I'm not mistaken. So thank you for that very much. Always a pleasure watching you guys. Greeting from Denmark. There you go. Thank you for that. That's very kind of you. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Kinky says for $5, Russ, I'm flying to NYC next week. Any recommendations for a good, fresh, wild-caught fish joint? I'm starving for seafood.
That is very specific.
I mean, in New York, do we have wild-caught fish? Because where would they catch it that keep it fresh?
Yeah, we do have we have really good East River trout.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, probably got to go out to like Rockaway for that.
Yeah, I mean, my seafood places were like where I'm from, and you don't want to go all the way out there. There were places I liked out in like Queens, like out on Long Island and stuff.
Right.
In Manhattan, like I don't have a seafood place, man. I took a really hot girl to the Sea Grill once.
Oh, the Sea Grill, that's down on Spring Street, right?
No, that was in Rockefeller Center. If it's still there.
Oh, okay.
Sea Grill, that was one of the two restaurants down there in the lower level. That was a very classy joint.
Nice. Yeah, now what's the other one they got down there? Del Frisco's?
Is that what's down there now?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
It's
Anchor hangout, apparently.
I took this girl to the Sea Grill, and I had never been to a restaurant where they put the cork to your nose.
For the wine? Wow, yeah.
I had never experienced that, and I'm like, trying not to laugh. Well, because there was such gravity, with the white glove.
Right. Yeah. Very serious.
It was a very serious business, and I'm like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Trying to impress this girl. But yeah, man, I don't really go to seafood too much. If I go for seafood, it's like an Italian restaurant serving seafood. It's not like a seafood restaurant.
Right. Yeah, I don't like seafood, so I couldn't give you a recommendation, unfortunately. Jel Perman, thanks for the $5. Harris got clowned by Tulsi. That's like thinking your team is a Super Bowl contender after getting their asses kicked by the Cleveland Browns. Thank you, Jel Perman. Appreciate that. Bonzo Beans, can anything matter more at this point than the escalating confrontation of nuclear superpowers? Top item on my Pollyanna-esque long-term wish list is the defunding and deconstruction of the military-industrial complex. Thank you. Soccer Papa says Sana Waz did an amazing job of dressing down Tim Walz when Russell spoke with her. Great job, Russell.
Yep.
Hope you all have her on sometime soon. Yeah, we would love to have her on.
Yeah, we want to track her down.
She's a star. That kid's a star. All right, we're going to move on, folks. So this is a related story, obviously, to the banning of X in Brazil. Robert Reich thought he should write an op-ed about how to rein in Elon Musk. Elon Musk is out of control. Here's how to rein him in, by great liberal thinker, progressive thinker, Robert Reich. Elon Musk is rapidly transforming his enormous wealth. He's the richest person in the world into a huge source of unaccountable political power that's now backing Trump and other authoritarians around the world. Musk owns X, formerly known as Twitter. He publicly endorsed Donald Trump last month. Before that, Musk helped form a pro-Trump super PAC. Meanwhile, the former U.S. president has revived his presence on the X platform. Musk just hired a Republican operative with expertise in field organizing to help with get-out-the-vote efforts on behalf of Trump. All right, so far this sounds like a person exercising a political right, but let's see what's the issue here. Musk reposted a faked version of Kamala Harris's first campaign video with an altered voice track sounding like Harris and saying she doesn't know the first thing about running the country and is the ultimate diversity hire. Musk tagged the video amazing. It got hundreds of millions of views so far. Okay, so what he's referring to is the parody video that he's referring to as a faked video, which we did a segment on this. Russ and Kit did a segment on this while I was on leave. There was an obvious parody video. This is what's just so sleazy about the way they argue. I mean, you're calling that a faked version. It was a parody. That was satire. That was satire. It's not a faked version. It was not a dishonest post.
And as soon as you start reading this, you just picture all of the Kool-Aid drinking libs who read that and just absorb it without question.
Exactly.
These people are so fucking brainwashed. They could see that video and still accept this framing. It's an obvious parody. It's not like it's not like it's revealed as parody 60 seconds in. It's like 10 seconds in.
It's obvious. It's the most obvious thing in the world
that this is a parody.
The Michigan Secretary of State has accused the Musk-supported America PAC of tricking people into sharing personal data. Although the PAC's website promises to help users register to vote, it allegedly asks users in battleground states to give their names and phone numbers without directing them to a voter registration site, and then uses that information to send them anti-Harris and pro-Trump ads. I mean, I'm on a million phone and email text lists that I didn't sign up for. I mean, this is nothing out of the ordinary either.
Yes. How about the fact that I keep reporting these fucking things as junk, and then I get more from another phone number from the same organization,
that happens all the time.
Kamala Harris. How about that?
Yeah. No, that happens all the time. That always happens. According to a new report from the Center for Countering Digital Hate, Musk himself has posted 50 false election claims on X so far this year. They've got a total of 1.2 billion views. None of them had a community note from X's supposed fact-checking system. Evidence is mounting that Russia and other foreign agents are using X to disrupt this year's presidential race, presumably in favor of Trump. Musk has done little to stop them.
There's a country that we have a lot more reliable evidence is trying to interfere in our presidential election. What country could that be? That he neglects to mention here. We got a play submission about like a Russian troll interfering in the presidential election, but I guess the adorable punchline is that he really wants to move to America. And I'm tempted to say we'll produce it if you make him a Mossad agent.
Yeah, right, exactly. Just change it up. We have an idea. We have a note here. Exactly.
Yeah, there's our note. Make him a Mossad agent.
Meanwhile, Musk is supporting right-wing causes around the world. In the UK, far-right thugs burned, looted, and terrorized minority communities as Musk's ex spread misinformation about a deadly attack on schoolgirls. Musk not only allowed instigators of this hate to spread these lies, but he retweeted and supported them. At least 8 times in the past 10 months, Musk has prophesied a future civil war related to immigration. When anti-immigration street riots occurred across Britain, he wrote, "Civil war is inevitable." Now, look, fair is fair. As I've said, the fact that Twitter is less censorious than these other platforms means bullshit does spread, and it does make it harder to determine what's real and what's fake. It can be done, though. We do it. That is the price of living in a free speech society. And listen, we are no defenders of Elon Musk in general. But when you look at what this guy now puts forward as a prescription for what ought to be done to him, this is pretty terrifying. So he keeps going. The European Union.
It's also so selective. If you want to argue that billionaires should not have this kind of control over speech, over discourse, I'm all for it. But you're not talking about that. You're not talking about Tim Cook. Maybe they'll start talking about Mark Zuckerberg now that he told the truth. They've laid off him for a while. They were putting the screws to him, and that's why he changed up the Facebook algorithm. Now who knows what he's going to do? Why aren't you talking about Bill Gates? Why was a guy that's not even in the government the main spokesperson aside from Fauci about the vax and COVID? Who the fuck is Bill Gates? I didn't elect Bill Gates. Bill Gates wasn't appointed. Why did Bill Gates have that kind of influence over the discourse? Why was Bill Gates being brought on TV to dictate and define public policy? You have something
very
to say
few
about that?
op-eds written about how that was suspect.
Bill Gates lied. He
no.
went on TV and lied to defend the patents. He said that the
Indians
third
couldn't make
world
them
country,
right.
they
Right.
couldn't make it. It's total bullshit. It's a country of freaking 1 billion people. Of course they have factories that can make a vaccine.
The European Union Commissioner Thierry Breton sent Musk an open letter reminding him of EU laws against amplifying harmful content that promotes hatred, disorder, incitement of violence, or certain instances of disinformation, and warning that the EU will be extremely vigilant about protecting EU citizens from serious harm. Musk's response was a meme that said, "Take a big step back and literally fuck your own face." Elon Musk calls himself a free speech absolutist, but has accepted over 80% of censorship requests from authoritarian governments. I don't doubt that that's true. He is a big fucking hypocrite. 2 days before the Turkish elections, he blocked accounts critical of the president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. And he also silenced the uncommitted account during the DNC. He just suspended that account for that period of days. Oh, yeah. No, he's a giant piece of shit. But he's not a piece of shit who should be arrested, as Robert Reich puts in item 3 of 6. Okay, so here are his ideas. He may be the richest man in the world. He may own one of the world's most influential social media platforms. But that doesn't mean we're powerless to stop him. Here are 6 ways to rein in Musk. Boycott Tesla. All right, fair enough. You got a right to do that. Advertisers.
Okay. And that has been one of my W's this year.
Yeah, Russ has predicted that the libs would boycott Tesla.
And that's happening. And particularly they're getting killed with Gen Z. Gen Z doesn't see Tesla as a desirable brand.
They also probably can't afford them.
Well,
they are expensive.
There is that. But yeah, can you show up in your lib neighborhood now driving a new Tesla?
Yeah, or one of those trucks. Worse.
Yeah.
Advertisers should
truck,
boycott
forget
X.
about it.
Yeah, the truck. Forget about that.
They'll make you move. The homeowners association will start a petition.
Yeah, exactly. Advertisers should boycott X. All right, fair enough. I mean, you're within your rights to call for those things. But here, regulators around the world, item number 3, should threaten Musk with arrest if he doesn't stop disseminating lies and hate on X. So that's the heading, and then here's the paragraph. Global regulators may be on the way to doing this, as evidenced by the August 24th arrest in France of Pavel Durov, who founded the online communications tool Telegram, which French authorities have found complicit in hate crimes and disinformation. Like Musk, Durov has styled himself a free speech absolutist. Okay, so that is giving away the game right there. He is saying governments around the world, which don't have this annoying obstacle in their way called a First Amendment in a codified constitution, should take advantage of the fact that free speech is not codified in those countries and arrest him. Unfortunately, we can't do that here because we have a First Amendment. He's literally just saying countries that aren't hampered by a free speech clause in their constitution should arrest him. Item 3 of 6 just kind of slips that in there as if that's not extremely draconian.
All right. So, yeah, pudgy, avuncular little Robert Reich, he's a fascist. He's a fascist. These people are fascists. Our friends who are always saying liberals, scratch a liberal, you'll get a fascist. Here's your proof. Who's more of a like squishy, progressive, non-threatening lib than Robert Reich?
Yeah,
and look at what he is prepared to advocate for with absolutely no look. Robert Reich, he's not a stupid guy. You know, some of these people are just flat out stupid. He's not stupid. He certainly has the capacity to think through the implications of what he's suggesting. This is how thoroughly these people believe in their divine moral right. These people would no more question their right to arrest their political opponents than a Catholic would question their right to run an inquisition in the 17th century.
Yes. Now, he's not done. This one is also very troubling. In the United States, the Federal Trade Commission should demand that Musk take down lies that are likely to endanger individuals, and if he does not, sue him under Section 5 of the FTC Act. Now, watch how he phrases this here. Musk's free speech rights under the First Amendment don't take precedence over the public interest. 2 months ago, the U.S. Supreme Court said federal agencies may pressure social media platforms to take down misinformation, a technical win for the public good. Now, let me reread that because he phrases that very, very sneakily and inaccurately. 2 months ago, the U.S. Supreme Court said federal agencies may pressure social media platforms to take down misinformation. That is not what the court ruled. What the court ruled is that the government communicating with social media companies does not constitute pressure. That's why they ruled the way they did. They did not say the government has the right to coerce social media platforms into censoring on their behalf. They said that the case could not be made that the simple act of communicating with these platforms was, by its nature, coercive. So he's wrong about that. He's being very, very sleazy in how he phrases that.
Well, he's been sleazy through this entire article.
Yeah. He says, the Supreme Court said that, pressuring social media is no problem. No, that is not what they ruled. That they wrongfully ruled, in my opinion, obviously, that communication did not constitute pressure. But no, the Supreme Court does not give the government a green light to outright pressure social media companies. If the Supreme Court thought they were pressuring them, they would say that that is not constitutional. Okay. And then a couple more items here. The U.S. government and we taxpayers have additional power over Musk if we're willing to use it. The U.S. should terminate its contracts with him, starting with Musk's SpaceX. And obviously,
I know at least 2 astronauts who would not advocate for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And obviously, point number 6, the most obvious one, make sure Musk's favorite candidate for president is not elected. Okay, so those are all your prerogative. But that just pretty blatant and bad faith misrepresentation of the Missouri versus Biden ruling, as well as just the outright calling for his arrest in countries not burdened by a First Amendment, that tells you everything you need to know. They don't like free speech. They like censorship. Liberals try to argue around this all the time. Well, these companies are private companies. They could do what they want. Okay, so then are you a libertarian when it comes to censorship? Because you're not a libertarian on other things. Robert Reich is not a libertarian in other ways.
It depends on who owns the platform.
Right. Well, yeah, it depends on everything. That's what I mean. They like restricting speech. They like censorship. They're for it. Period. Don't let them try and steer the conversation into this subtlety or that subtlety. They like censorship. They wish they could censor more. And there's Robert Reich saying outright, the First Amendment is an obstacle. It is a burden that we bear. It's not a privilege to live in a country with a codified First Amendment. And as we will see in our next story, that First Amendment gets thrown out at the convenience of the government when they want to. So even the First Amendment is not a cure-all, but it's an obstacle. And Robert Reich laments that obstacle and encourages countries in which that obstacle does not exist to exploit that lack of an obstacle to arrest Elon Musk. And here we have it. Brazil bans the app, and now people who try and work around it, they're threatening with like a $10,000 fine. Whether that's enforceable or not, I'm not sure. I'm not a tech guy. Maybe Jake could tell us about that. But there you have it. Yes, scratch a liberal, a fascist, please.
Well, they also demonstrated in Brazil that government politicians, because they have an election coming up, they're still using X.
Right.
So they're using a VPN.
Right.
So is he going to fine them? Is he going to fine these members of the government who continue to use X? Yeah, look, we got to be careful over here how we say this, but if you really look at what's going on, the system, the establishment has not been under this kind of pressure in many decades, not since the great upheavals and kind of domestic urban warfare tactics of the 60s and 70s. They haven't faced this kind of a threat to their legitimacy in a very long time. After from the Reagan Revolution on, basically the whole country went to sleep. The radicals were just exhausted and burned out, and everyone just chased the dollar, and that was it. And wasn't that silly with the bell bottoms? And you had shows like 30 something and movies like The Big Chill, reducing it all to a silly youthful excess fashion statement, and really massaging the whole history of that period so that people would understand it in terms of sex, drugs, and lifestyle transformations, with almost no discussion of the class elements of that period, discussions of economics, labor exchanges that were set up in an attempt to subvert capitalism. You ever see that in any of those shows about the boomers?
Right.
You never saw any of that. You would think that wasn't going on, but it was. It was. Is the first time you've had that kind of pressure on the system in a very long time. And this is the part I have to be careful how we say. Make no mistake, people get deleted. All right. What, you think just Boeing does it? There's just Boeing. Right. People, things happen, man. Things happen. Look at all the Black Panthers who got railroaded into a lifetime in prison. Look what happened to Fred Hampton. Like when capitalism is under pressure, the underlying fascist nature of the capitalist system comes to the surface. It's always there, but they play good cop until they can't. And then the bad cop comes out if you put them under pressure. You can have free speech as long as they don't feel like it's effective. Right. As long as they don't feel like it's going to have an impact, you could say whatever you want. And we're seeing right now something we haven't seen in a very long time. We haven't seen the system take off its mask and start openly violating people's rights in broad daylight this way in quite a while, and it's not going to get better.
No. And our next story, which is our final YouTube segment of the night, not our final segment of the night, we have plenty more show, but our next story is, to me, in a way, which I'll explain, the scariest example of this. But let's take some super chats first. Brahmin cast includes untouchables, i.e., Muslims. Thank you. I know myself for the $1.99. Derek P, thanks for the $5. Rules for thee, not for me. That's the mantra of the power elite in this country. Thank you, Derek P. Samuel MX, appreciate the donation. What do you call it when Elon uses X for the propaganda against Venezuela and the Monroe Doctrine? I don't like the judge, but it's not the U.S.'s business. No, I mean, look, it's not the United States' business. Like, we shouldn't coup the government of Brazil. Look, that's their call. But it is part of this global anti-free speech push. There's no doubt about that. And it's a terrible look for the left that Lula is the president now. It's a terrible look for the left that Robert Reich is advocating to, the jailing of Elon Musk. I mean, I can comment on that. Would I be in favor of a regime change operation in Brazil? No, absolutely not. It's their country. It's their business. But I do think it is alarming that there is this global push against freedom of speech. Absolutely. Posmo, thanks for the $5. Once liberalism reached a settlement with the deep state and corporate power through the adoption of globalism, it dispensed with pluralism. Thank you. Very well said. Kuznetsky Bassane for the $4.99. Thank you for that super sticker. Appreciate that very much. Bill Crosby, thanks for the $5. After watching that interview, I think we know which bar exam she passed. Good one. Posmo for $2 says, I remember Reich slamming UAW for opposing NAFTA. Interesting. I don't remember that. I was probably too young for that. But good observation. Well, he was a Bill Clinton economics advisor, so it makes sense that he would do that. I mean, that's not surprising. Someone really, Jenna Tills, thank you for the $5. Someone really should have told Mr. Bean that parody videos were fake before he spent Christmas alone with a turkey stuck in his head. Shame. Gel Perman, thanks for the $2. Says Congress banned enforcement of foreign libel law. Thank you, Gel Perman. Appreciate that. Okay.
All right. Before we move on, I haven't done this in a while, but since I just mentioned this, I want to recommend this book. I finally got around to moving my books from the other room in here and moving the Frank Herbert out there. If you want to read about the radical movements of the 70s, this is a great book to kind of recover that a history that's almost been erased of radical urban guerrilla groups. Days of Rage. I would highly recommend it.
All righty. Excellent. All right, we got some more super chats, which we'll take after this final YouTube segment, not the final segment of the show. Get ready to make that Rumble switch, folks. DoDissidents.com/Rumble. Plenty more content to do. We're going to talk about the arrest of Sarah Wilkinson. We're going to talk about the Israeli hostages and the protests following their execution. And we're also going to talk about RBN versus the ADL. So plenty more show coming up on Rumble shortly. This is a quick final YouTube segment here. So we've been talking a lot about the global push against free speech in countries without First Amendments. Of course, we've got a First Amendment in this country, but that didn't stop our friend Danny Shaw from being roused at the airport. So DD Geopolitics tweets out, breaking, Professor Danny Shaw becomes latest victim of the assault on free speech. Professor Danny Shaw, former heavyweight boxer and educator, was detained and interrogated by the FBI and DHS at Chicago's O'Hare Airport on August 28th, following his attendance at the Free Palestine Film Festival in London. Shaw, who was recently fired from New York City's John Jay College of Criminal Justice for opposing the genocide in Gaza, which is true, that happened shortly after we interviewed him. I hope we weren't the straw that broke the camel's back there. Sorry if we were, Danny. Try to hook you up with a super chat.
I didn't know he was a boxer.
Yeah, he was about. Well, yeah. I mean, he's built like a boxer, man. That guy's in good shape. He faced a 3-hour grilling by Chicago-based federal agents. The FBI pressed Shaw on his activism at home and abroad, demanding the names of contacts and organizations with which he had worked. Despite requests, Shaw was denied the right to speak with a lawyer and was told he wouldn't be released until he complied. Federal agents seized his cell phone, computer, notebooks, and other belongings while bombarding him with questions about his work and personal life. This comes as Shaw, along with other U.S. educators critical of Israel's actions, faces doxing campaigns and widespread censorship on social media, with accounts being shadow banned, suspended, or removed altogether. Danny Shaw is severely shadow banned, by the way, on supposed free speech champion Elon Musk's social media platform, X, formerly known as Twitter. Kind of a complicated show this evening because we always have to say, we oppose the persecution of Elon Musk because we oppose the persecution of anybody. We don't mean that as a defense of Elon Musk, the man. When you search Danny Shaw, you could put his handle at Prof. Danny Shaw in Twitter, and his profile does not come up. The mentions come up, and then you have to click on the handle in the mentions. You cannot find him on Twitter. That is how shadow banned this guy is. And for what? Is he charged with anything? No. So Danny Shaw posts to X here, and I'm going to read the English translation of this. I was detained and questioned by FBI and DHS agents at the Chicago airport 2 days after returning from a conference for Palestine in London. Agents from the Chicago FBI field office interrogated me for 3 hours about my solidarity with Palestine. This is Danny Shaw's tweet. This is straight from him. They demanded to know the names of my contacts and any organizations I had worked with. They denied me the right to speak to my attorney. When I refused to answer questions, I was told I would not be released until I complied. They confiscated my phone, computer, notebooks, and other belongings and asked me hundreds of questions about my work and personal life. I was fired as a professor by John Jay College in April following a coordinated pressure campaign by the Israel lobby in which comments I made at a demonstration against Israeli genocide in Gaza were distorted to falsely portray me as an anti-Semite. So, what makes this especially chilling, even more chilling than the Scott Ritter case, and don't get me wrong, full solidarity with Scott Ritter, I'm sure their case against him is absolute bullshit, but it is a case, right? They are citing the Foreign Registrants Act or whatever the hell it is, right? This, they're not even citing a case. This is just, they grabbed them, they shook them down, they harassed them, and they roused them in a country with a First Amendment. That goes to show you what your First Amendment is actually worth. This is probably, of all the stories, the scariest in a way, because they just took it upon themselves to take this guy's shit, wouldn't let him speak to a lawyer, asked him hundreds of questions, and would not give him the right to remain silent, wouldn't even allow him to say, hey, I don't feel comfortable talking to you without a lawyer present. Can I get a lawyer? No. All right, well, then I'm not going to answer you. Well, then we're not letting you go. Talk about fucking fascism. You talk about fucking fascism. That is absolute fascism. And this is the kind of fascism that is bipartisan in nature. Will Donald Trump let you troll a trans activist on social media more than Kamala Harris will? Yeah, sure. Is Donald Trump going to keep his hands off of Danny Shaw? No. This is how capitalism responds to a crisis, with force in order to suppress that crisis. That is why, it is my opinion, because, you know, people think, well, why are you so black-pilled about the election? Because you should be black-pilled about the election, because it's a hopeless election. And to delude people into thinking that either of these parties or these major candidates are going to restore any sense of democracy, you know, in a meaningful fashion is just delusional. What we need in this country is a general strike. That is what we need. So if you think I'm black-pilled and I'm not solution-oriented, that's the solution. You need to withhold labor until this and other issues are fixed, because we've been talking throughout this stream about, well, countries without a First Amendment, they're more easily able to issue arrest warrants for, you know, guys like Pavel Durov or Elon Musk. This guy is Danny Shaw, man. This is a New Yorker. This is an American New York boxer who said some things they don't like. They pull him aside in an airport without any pretense of, hey, you're under investigation for a crime. No crime. Not under investigation for anything. Right. Let's grab him and see what he's up to, and let's not give him the option to keep his mouth shut or call a lawyer. That is terrifying. That's, in a way, the scariest of all of these cases.
Well, and this is partly just to have a chilling effect on everybody else, on us,
of course,
on everybody.
Yep. On
hey,
everybody.
man, you're home with the baby. I travel. I think about this shit when I travel. I freaking want to go to China next year. Our platform keeps getting bigger. Do I know I'm not going to be grabbed by the FBI? What were you doing in China? No,
right.
No, not with this going on.
Yeah.
This, again, they haven't felt threatened in such a way that they've had to be this overt about the true nature of our state in a very long time.
Right.
But here we are. The Israel shit is not washing. It is a cornerstone of U.S. policy in that region. It's the cornerstone of our foreign policy. You have very powerful entrenched interests that are going to fight tooth and nail to maintain our policy of propping up Israel. And as the anti-Zionist movement is not going away, now they're taking the gloves off. They were hoping, bust up a couple of encampments, fence off. CCNY is still fenced off a few blocks from here.
Yep.
City College of New York, permanently fenced off to control. You used to just be able to walk through that campus. You can't do it anymore. They thought it would go away. It's not going away. It's only growing. Israel's economy is collapsing. It's very questionable whether Israel will be able to continue to function as a state, whatever we do. That's it, man. They're pulling out all the stops. And it is going to be dangerous for people in the activist space in ways that it has not been since the 70s. People have not dealt with the kinds of tactics you're going to see now, particularly post 9/11. You had this little period after the Church report where they kind of put the handcuffs on the intelligence services. And after 9/11, they basically have all the powers they had before the Church committee and then some. They have powers they didn't even have back then. A big part of why a lot of these activists wound up getting freed that they arrested was because the things that Hoover was doing were illegal. The black bag jobs, the illegal wiretaps. Now that shit's legal. They have more power than they did back then. Now you're not going to get out on those technicalities.
Nope. It is absolutely terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Very, very scary times here. 2100 over Rumble. All right, folks, we're going to take care of a little bit of business here. This is a good time to read an ad for Rumble Premium. Free speech is the theme of the night, and so this is definitely apt. Yes. So this is a sponsorship directly from Rumble, and it is one that is incredibly important to the survival of their platform. So when Rumble first started in 2013, they built the platform for the small creator. They did not censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally, which they still do. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or opinions on COVID, but they did. Facebook admitted they fell to pressure from the Biden and Harris administration in that letter that Zuckerberg just wrote this past week. Rumble did not censor, however. They held the line, and they are attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to you. They're attacked in corporate media. They're attacked by governments like France. They're attacked from brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove speech. Rumble is fighting to keep it. Rumble won't survive with brand advertisers. They don't get much of it. So watching our show on Rumble is the most they can ask from you. But if you really believe in this fight, and if you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. That is the ad-free version of Rumble. So join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. So go to rumble.com/premium and use promo code STUDIO. If you have the means and believe in the cause, now's the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, we're just happy to have you watch us on their platform. All right. Beautiful. Pleasure to do that
an ad we can get behind.
Absolutely. 100%.
It is. Look, man. Yes, we're not Trump supporters. We're not saying, "Oh, God." I wish we could. Honestly, you think it's easy to tell people like, "Yo, man, we're fucked either way."
Yeah. Exactly,
I wish we could say, "Yeah, Trump, he's got his problems." No, man. You're not. For those of you who were watching at the top of the year, I was kind of thinking about spending part of the year out of New York, and the conclusion I came to from spending time in different cities is you're not going to be in a collapsing empire and go find a city in that empire that's not past its prime. Everywhere you go in America, it's backward looking. The good times are past. It's the same thing with these political parties. You're not going to find a politician or a political party in a system that's this degraded that's good. That it doesn't exist. It's not on the menu. Platform, hey, a platform like Rumble. Look what happened to Telegram. Look what happened to TikTok. TikTok got reined in, right? So. Now you just got Rumble and X, so we do need to keep Rumble afloat.
And X is bullshit. X is not real deal. They don't hold the line. They hold the line when Elon feels like it, if it's an issue that he likes you on, right? Rumble and Substack are the two that actually walk the walk all the time.
Yeah, X is the Queen of Hearts platform.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Whatever mood seizes Elon that day, that's how much free speech you have on X.
Exactly. Rumble, Locals, which is a part of Rumble, and Substack, those are the real deal ones. Absolutely.
Hey, man, people want to say it's a right-wing platform. Yeah, man. We covered the Palestine protests. 4 days they put us on the homepage.
Yep, exactly. All right, we're going to take some super chats, and then we're going to close the YouTube stream, and then we're going to head to Rumble. So we got more segments to do. So it is not call-in time for the Q&A yet. We will give you the go-ahead over on the Rumble side once we're there. We're going to take the rest of these super chats, then we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then the show will continue, plus the Q&A over on Rumble. I'm So Money. Thanks for the $5. Bill Gates is out of control. Here's how to rein him in. Yes, there you go. Submitted by the estate of Robert Reich. Weedy Gonzalez, thanks for the $2. Love you guys. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Weedy Gonzalez. Like your screen name. Dwayne Vogel, thanks for the $2. Says, turns out Robert Reich is aptly named. Yeah, more like Robert Reich. Ha ha. John N., thanks for the $5. Loved watching Russ eat real pizza and shoot the shit with Jimmy Dore. Keaton needs a shave. Yeah, this is my 5 o'clock shadow look. This ain't nothing. If you must be new here. I grow beards much fuller than this. Y'all are great. Thanks for all you do. Love from Florida. Free Uhurus. Yes, free Uhurus. Yep. I hope you guys got a chance to watch that rally, which we put on our newsletter yesterday morning. Yasim Miller, thanks for the $20. Musk restricted many accounts before Turkey's elections, likely to protect his business interests from Erdogan's potential retaliation. He doesn't care about freedom of speech when it comes to his own benefit. Yeah, no, absolutely. Sure. Point taken. I'm So Money, thanks for the $10. You are money tonight, hitting us up with a lot of super chats. It's very generous. Thank you. To help out the shadow band, I humbly suggest you using X's chronological feed. There is one downside, though, sarcastic tone. You'll be forced to actually follow the people you choose to follow. There you go. Yasim Miller, thanks for another $20. Appreciate that. I've been closely following political developments in both Turkey and the States, and I've noticed some concerning parallels between the tactics, used by the Democratic Party and those of Erdogan's government. Deja vu all over. Yep, I believe you. Lee Levin, thanks for the $2. Seafood, City Island in the Bronx. Well, yeah, City Island. There you go. City Island is cool. That's a cool little place. That is out of the way, though. But if you're really into seafood, I imagine they would have some good stuff there. Sparky, for $5, says, remember that Merle Haggard song? Are the good times really over for good? Wow, thank you, Sparky. Appreciate that.
Well, listen, man, going, I said, L.A., look, L.A. was never my thing. But if it was your thing, the whole convertibles and fake boobs and the blonde, like it was really like that when I first went there. And now being in kind of anti-commercial, I've always hated kind of consumerism and commercialism. I always hated LA. And when I went there this time, it was like seeing your bitter enemy from around the corner with cancer. And feeling like, we didn't have to be enemies.
Right.
And now it's too late. That's how I felt in LA now. I felt like I felt sad for LA. I felt like my old bitter nemesis is dying.
I haven't been since 2017. I haven't been in a while.
And New Orleans, even the people who are from New Orleans sound like they're just making it up for the rubes.
John
yeah, I like my red beans and rice.
Yeah, right, yeah.
It sounds like even they're putting it on. They're born and raised there.
John N., thanks for the $2. Not new, just worried you might grow the beard back. Oh, yeah, and I'll probably maintain this for a little while. Look, if I have time to shave, I shave. If I don't, I let it go. That's how I roll. Alrighty, folks, please come to Rumble and continue the show with us. We got plenty more show to do, plus a Q&A. DoDissidents.com/Rumble takes you right to this stream. Otherwise, go to rumble.com and type Do Dissidents in the search bar. But that link ought to do it, thanks to our friend Jake, who made us this nifty little link here, hyperlink. So we got some Rumble rants in the queue. We will get to those on the Rumble side. But right now, we're going to take a 5-minute intermission. We will continue with the show as well as the Q&A in 5 minutes. So until we see you on the other side, be safe and be well.
Whoops.
That's all right.
Courage.
Please clap.